Hello and welcome to Surrey Police Live. And yes, we are live. We apologise for the technical problems that we've been having, but we're glad you're with us. It's the first of our new series, and if you've always been wondering about the work of Surrey Police, you see the officers out on the streets, whether that be the officers that you recognise and also the police community support officers. There's a lot going on behind the scenes as well, and that's what we're going to be looking at tonight. I should say I'm Andy. I'm your host for the next hour. Your chance also to make questions to us as well using the comments box on Facebook and YouTube. We'll get to those as we go through the next hour. But with me, three people that know a lot more than I do about what's going on inside Surrey Police. They are police staff. So if you've wondered about the work of the police staff where you don't need to do the full training of a police officer, then tonight's episode is definitely for you. So first of all, let's say hello to Aisha, and you're a detention officer. What does that mean?
Hello, Andy. Yeah, my name's Aisha. I'm a custody detention officer. I work in one of the 3 custody suites in Surrey Police. Our job is to look after the prisoners when they come into our care. We don't get involved with investigations. We just, look after them and make sure they're okay.
All right, we'll find out a bit more about what you do as we go through the programme. And to Ellie, you're on the other end of the spectrum, I guess, in that you look after the victims of crime.
Yes, so I'm one of the caseworkers in the Victim and Witness Care Unit. So we do victim support and witness support all the way from 24 hours after a crime has been reported until after court and beyond. Yeah.
All right, and in the case that actually goes to court, been prepared possibly by Eloise, the major crime team, so I imagine that's hugely involved.
Yes, so I am an investigating officer in the major crime team for Surrey and Sussex Police, and that involves investigations dealing with murders and manslaughter. Yes,
that's quite a heavy day for you, isn't it, really?
It is, yes.
And how's your day all been? I mean, we've all been preparing for this. We've been doing a few, playing cards and, just generally enjoying ourselves while they were sorting out the technicals. But how are we all today?
Good. We finished our night shift this morning, so all good.
A night shift?
How
well? Does that start? Is that a 12-hour shift?
Yes, 12-hour shifts we do work. Yeah.
All right. So yes, there are some downsides, I guess, as well. But we'll talk about that as well. Comments welcome in the next hour, so don't forget to get onto the Facebook or YouTube, however you're watching us right now, and send the questions to us. We'll deal with those as they come in. But let's look now at what's been happening at Surrey Police over the last week or so with our news.
Good evening, I'm Mike Hodder, Chief Inspector at the Roads Policing Unit, and I'll be reading you the latest headlines from Surrey Police Headquarters for this week. First up, a teenager has been banned from driving for 15 months after initiating a dangerous high-speed pursuit with officers in Woking last November. The boy failed to stop for officers who had signalled for him to pull over for dangerous driving. He sped off, driving a stolen moped on the wrong side of the road through residential streets, seriously endangering other road users. Surrey Police have released dashcam footage of the pursuit earlier this week after the boy was sentenced at Guildford Crown Court in January. Surrey Police has received a Gold Award for its commitment in LGBTQ+ inclusion in the workplace. The award was given yesterday by Stonewall, the world's second largest LGBTQ charity, which supports employers in creating welcoming workplaces for lesbian, gay, bi, trans and queer people. The force is also ranked in the top 50 of Stonewall's top 100 employers list. Deputy Chief Constable Nev Kemp said, "We're extremely proud to have been awarded this position. We know that this makes us a stronger performing, more diverse team across a wide range of characteristics and an organisation that is more representative of the people we serve. Ultimately, it contributes towards our overriding aim of keeping people in Surrey safe and feeling safe." A man has pleaded guilty to attempted murder after he stabbed a man in Epsom on the 23rd of September last year. Verdam Sintai from Kingston upon Thames was charged with attempted murder after his victim was found on Blenheim Road with stab wounds to his chest. John Vale, Epsom and Ewell's Borough Commander, recognised the impact on the local community after a large police presence remained in the area for a period of time after the stabbing. In a statement released on Tuesday, John went on to say that although these types of crimes are very rare, he hopes that the charge and guilty plea of Sintai will alleviate some of the community's concerns. Sintai has been remanded into custody and is due to be sentenced in court on the 4th of April, and we will keep you updated on the outcome of that case. Surrey Police has issued a warning to residents after a rise in scams relating to COVID-19 and the Omicron variant. There's been a particular rise in fraudsters sending phishing emails and texts which claim to be from the NHS and tell the receiver that they have been in contact with the Omicron variant and need to pay for a testing kit. They typically include a link to an authentic-looking NHS website which asks the person for money or their personal details, which they will then sell or use to access this person's bank account. The warning encouraged residents to be aware of the new tactics fraudsters are using and report scams to Action Fraud. Further details of the scams and how to report them are on our website. And that's it, a brief snapshot of some of the headline activity over at Surrey Police this week. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week when we'll be back with another roundup.
Welcome back to our live programme here at Surrey Police with your chance to ask us questions. So if you're on Facebook or YouTube, then use the comments box and we'll put those questions directly to our guests here. And let's go straight back to Aisha, who's a detention officer. She's thinking, why have I picked you straight away? Why couldn't I come to you last? Just tell me, how did you decide to, join Surrey Police and particularly that role?
I've always had a keen interest in police and law. I worked for a different force previously and moved down to Surrey.
So where were you before then?
I used to work for Met Police.
Okay, so
Yeah.
was that
Yes.
you just wanted the countryside?
No, it was just a long way from home, and Surrey's local, and yes, I like Surrey, and I've got officers, friends that work for Surrey Police, and they've told me how wonderful it was to work here. So yeah, I made the change to come down here. Yeah.
But detention, I mean, it's right at the front end, isn't it? As
It
soon as
is,
someone
yeah.
comes in
Yeah.
detained, what do you actually
We are
do?
there. So on a day-to-day basis, our job involves primarily looking after prisoners. We as custody officers, including the sergeants that we work with, don't get involved with the criminal matter while the reason that the prisoner's here. We don't get involved in that in any way, shape or form. Our job is purely just to look after prisoners, take biometrics as needed.
Now, I'm no biometric. I think probably
Yeah,
a lot of people
sorry.
know what that means. But so essentially, let's say
yeah.
I've been arrested.
Yep.
Whoops. What would occur as soon as I've been effectively booked in?
Booked in, yeah. So we'll get you booked in. We'll go through your rights and entitlements. You have the right to have somebody told that you're here, as long as they're not involved with the reason why you're here. You can have a telephone call. You have a right to free independent legal advice if you want it. So we can call you a duty solicitor, or you can have a name solicitor if that's what you like. And you have a right to review the codes of practice if you wish to do so. We'll provide that to you if you want to. We'll do your fingerprints, your photo and your DNA if it's required. DNA is just a mouth swab. We'll just take a mouth swab sample. There's no needles or blood or anything involved in that. We'll take you down to your cell, get you some food and drink, give you a book to read, newspaper, make you comfortable.
Okay, so let's go back to
yeah.
say one of those TV shows, say The Bill.
Yep.
And it always looks like the officer who's arrested seems to have gone to the cell. So that
Yep.
there is a separation here. Is that
Yes.
what you're saying?
Yeah. In certain cases, officers will come with us to the cells, but the majority of the time, it's us that will look after the prisoners. Yeah. Unless, it depends what they're here for. Most of the time, it is us that manages the prisoner.
All right, let's just go across to how someone has arrived in the police station because they have been arrested. Maybe it's a major crime, as Eloise was saying. what made you get involved in such a difficult area? I mean, you started differently, obviously. But getting it.
Yeah, so I did a law degree and then I worked for Defence previously. And then I decided to join Surrey Police because I was interested in their investigations and kind of more prosecution-led side. And so I used to work in the Safeguarding Investigation Unit, which kind of deals with like domestic abuse. So I worked there for a little while, and then I was really interested, like everybody in the major crime team, and I got involved and thankfully got the job. So yeah, now we deal with murders and manslaughters in Surrey and Sussex. So we're a collaborative team, but we're based in Surrey, and there's another team that are based in Sussex. And yeah, so we investigate the murders and manslaughters.
This must be incredibly stressful.
It is. There's lots of long hours, and it's fast-paced in the beginning, and then you have to gather, obviously, a lot of evidence and prepare for court. So yeah, it can be stressful, but we work really well as a team, and we have some great bosses. So yeah.
I mean, we're talking about it from a position as well of a successful case.
Yes.
But there must be times when all that work you've put in, it goes to court and the jury, for whatever reason, finds the person innocent. How do you react to that sort of
I mean, that
failure?
can be very difficult, and it's also difficult for the family involved, with the family of the person that's unfortunately died. But I think, you know, we just try our best, ensure that we gather as much evidence as possible, and at the end of the day, as long as we've done that, then it's in the hands of those 12 people.
Let's move straight from that to Ellie, because victim support is what you do.
Yeah.
And so picking up particularly what Eloise has just said, how would you handle that the case has collapsed and you've got obviously very disappointed relatives?
Yeah, so we the support that we offer is emotional and practical. So we kind of do a all-round support. So it's not just after the court process, it's literally from day one we'll come in and either build confidence up to get to that point, because it's so scary going to court.
Yeah, as a witness or a victim, it's really difficult, and we don't underestimate that at all. You know, when we are relying on these people, and we're so thankful that they're, you know, willing to do so, because it's not something that you take on lightly.
Yeah. So that's where we come in. We come in to kind of do that all-round support, and it's not necessarily always just about the crime and the impact of the crime, because it spreads out. It impacts your relationships and your feelings of safety at home and your job. So we really kind of work with people to help them cope, first of all, but also rebuild their lives. Like, we want people to feel like they can go back to their life, which I think it's quite alarming when people come into contact with the police. It's really surreal, and that's something that we really have to help manage. But yeah, it's not always, like, not every case goes to court, and we deal with a lot of, actually majority of our cases where they've come in and we're just helping them to feel better in themselves. So, yeah.
So tell us how you got into Surrey Police and why you chose that particular area.
So I actually worked for an educational charity before I came to the police. So it was still in a helping environment, but we worked with like young children from areas of poverty. And I then went and did a degree in criminology and psychology and loved it. And although I still had that need to help people, I wanted to use that in a different way. And this role came up and it was kind of perfect.
Yeah, same.
Yes, I think you wanted to add something there. I think.
I have this overwhelming desire, and I enjoy looking after people. I like helping people. So yeah, it kind of fits perfectly with
But
that.
how do you deal with the total spectrum of those that perhaps they are cooperative, they've accepted they've been arrested, or those that are, I suppose, could be violent, and some people simply just dislike the police and the fact they're in that environment. How do you, I suppose, take the pressure out of it? You calm things down.
Yeah, I mean, people have different ways of dealing with prisoners. You take each person as they come. For me, something that I've always had in my mind is your voice is the most powerful tool. You just talk to people. I'm not here to judge. I'm obviously we'll look at, people have warnings and stuff like that, and we're aware of who people are, but I'm not here to judge, and I don't know why you're here. I don't really care why you're here. My main job is to look after you and just treat people like people. Like, just, if people get angry, people are not happy that they're here, then, you just have to explain to them the process. And majority of people, they understand that these guys have got a process to follow and that they've got a job to do. And yeah, I'd say 99% of them, once you explain it and once you talk to them, talking's the most important thing.
So you've got these 3 police staff with us on Surrey Police Live. You've heard what they do. If you have any questions, then why not send them in to us now using the chat box on Facebook and YouTube. As soon as they pop up on my screen here, I'll put those questions to our guests. But let's lighten the mood a little bit, shall we? How do TV police shows relate to what you know? Is it all just sensationalism or what?
I think some of them, do obviously dramatise certain things for the entertainment of the viewers, and a lot of them tend to miss out on the paperwork that we have to do and the hours and hours of investigation. It seems to be obviously like a snapshot when you're watching TV, but some of them are sort of like factual, or like when they're following actual police officers, like 24 hours in police custody. That's quite good, I think, in terms of following the officers as they go. And I like forensics, the real CSI. That's usually when there's been a serious crime, and they look at the forensic technology and how that can help lead to getting the case to court. So, yeah, I think
much harder programme to put together, I guess, because because you could say that's wrong. You wouldn't do it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're probably all guilty of sitting behind the screen saying, "Oh, it's not like that." But yeah, I really enjoy watching police programmes.
I'd definitely say from coming into the police, I was quite surprised about certain things, like, forensics aren't involved in every case, and you can't always just pull CCTV. It was like, oh, okay, this is how it's done, and it's not always a straightforward process, and there's so many departments and units that you've never even heard of, and you're like, oh, amazing. Okay.
Which doesn't really get the audience figures, does it?
No.
That's not let's talk about the cleaning department.
Yeah.
It's not vital, but it doesn't, I guess, be a brilliant storyline. Aisha, your favourite police show? It could be drama, it could be factual.
Again, I'll go back to 24 hours in police custody because, it kind of it's a bit more real, and it gives people a bit of an insight to what actually happens. It's not, policing's not like the bill, and it's not all happy, and there is stuff that's got to be done, and I think it just makes people more aware of it, and that things happen. That has to happen. They have to do things. Yeah.
I think 24 hours in police custody is a bit like Columbo. They tell you the answer at the top of the show. Do you find those programmes interesting in the sense of it shows how an officer is trying to get the result?
Yeah, and I think they're realistic as well. It's not just every episode leads to a successful prosecution and the person is found guilty and sent to prison. They're honest, and sometimes you don't get the result that you want, which is unfortunately a fact of life. So yeah, I think it's good when they're a little bit more realistic.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I think coming from a victim care side, it provides a more realistic expectation. But regardless, hopefully they can see that everyone is doing their best to get the best result for that person, I think. Yeah.
Let's take a question from Deborah on Facebook, and she has asked, what can be done to educate officers about autism and related mental health issues. Quite a big subject. I'll just say that again. What can be done to educate officers about autism and related mental health issues? Who would want to take that?
I don't mind starting.
Yeah, off you go then.
I think I can only really speak from our unit, but we work a lot with external agencies such as Jigsaw, who provide so many resources and so much information for those people in the community who have additional needs, where we need to learn about their access needs or how to get them the right kind of help, and they will work alongside us, and I think they would be available to any of the officers or staff that needed. The police, we also have a Pegasus card scheme where you can just go onto the Surrey Police website, put in your communication needs. So it might be that you have disability needs, it might be that you need an appropriate adult, but if you ever needed the police or any emergency service, those details will be pulled up straight away and we will know. So definitely worth putting that out there as well.
Can you just explain Pegasus, what that means?
I only know Pegasus is a flying horse.
Okay, well, do your own research. That's fine. So if you've got any more questions, do pop them into us on the comments box. I have got a bit more to ask on autism, so back to you, I think, Ellie, again. It's still from Deborah from Facebook. She wants to know what more can be done to safeguard young adults on the autism spectrum, especially those with related mental health issues.
I mean, we all work with vulnerable people all the time. And it's just about risk assessing, making sure we're all communicating, which we do really well in Surrey Police, and making sure when those risks are flagged that everybody who is appropriate to know knows about it, and we can come up as a team to find ways to best work with that person. We also work with a lot of external agencies, social services, family centres, mental health teams within the community. We're never short of people to go to when we are stuck and we need that additional help to know what's best for that person.
Yes. Eloise, does that cross into your area at all with major crime?
I think if we have a suspect who has, autism or any additional needs, it's flagged straight away to the custody sergeant and the team that Aisha works in, and they would get what's called an appropriate adult, so that they'd have somebody to help support them whilst in custody in any interview, and when they're speaking to the sergeant at the desk or anyone really involved in the kind of process, if they're given their rights, it's done with an appropriate adult who can help aid any communication and make sure that they understand what they're actually being told, and just really support them. You must see appropriate adults in custody quite a bit.
Yeah. As soon as we become aware that they need that support, then absolutely we'll get it. We also have mental health nurses within custody who sit and talk to people. They're very good, very helpful. We can refer people to agency if needed. Yeah, there's definitely support there if you need it.
Are the nurses there all the time?
Yeah, pretty much every day.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and if we can't, there's not someone there in person, we just call them on the phone, and they can be on the end of a phone.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
So an interesting thing that just crosses my mind there is where, say, misunderstanding and, say, in the pressured environment of being in, let's say, if you've been arrested, you're not going home, and you could say things that you don't mean, or you agree to something because you don't want to ask a question again. How do you assess that somebody has clearly understood when, say, we might be dealing with issues, say, mental health issues at that time?
We'd probably, if we kind of going on experience, if we feel that they are slightly vulnerable or that they're not understanding, we would refer them to a mental health nurse. And obviously they're medically trained in that field. We're not medical professionals, but if we feel like they're not understanding or we feel like they're just saying things, then we would refer them to the mental health nurse and get them to have a chat with them.
Okay, so I hope, Deborah, that we've answered your question in the way that you'd like. If you've got any more questions, we're here to take them. through Facebook and YouTube, use the comments box and we'll put them to our guests here. Let's, Eloise, turn to something which you've been, your normal day working, I suppose, which is how do you get ready for court?
So we've actually got a case at the moment currently at court, and lots of preparation has gone into that investigation. It starts right from the minute we're told, obviously, that unfortunately somebody's died and it's being treated as a murder investigation. It's just ensuring that we gather as much evidence as possible, whether that be through CCTV, witness statements, witness interviews, phone data, a variety of different means, and we all work together as a collaborative team. Different people have different roles within the investigation. Sometimes you might be interviewing the suspect, sometimes you might be interviewing witnesses, sometimes you might be looking at hours of CCTV. It's about making sure that everyone kind of pulls their weight and puts that all together to build kind of a complete package, if you like. It's a bit like a jigsaw where everyone's piece matters in order to make sure that that investigation is, you know, as tight as possible, ready for court. We have lots of meetings with the barristers, with the CPS to ensure that we've got everything that they think we need. It's stressful, but it's a vital part of what we do.
And is there a delay sometimes when, let's say, you need to get hold of an officer that is key to the case, but they're out doing, you know, their normal job and they're on shift? And what sort of problems can be thrown up to you?
I think, you know, generally when something unfortunate as a murder happens, everybody's quick to be on hand and help and assist as they can, basically. I mean, there certainly can be delays along the way, especially with COVID. Forensics was particularly an area that was experiencing a lot of delays due to the pandemic. But I think, you know, we know that if you've got somebody in custody and they're currently in prison awaiting trial, we only have really 6 months to get court ready and get the case ready for trial. So we have such a tight deadline. It has to be, you know, a group effort.
Yes, and just moving on to going to court, is that something, Ellie, that you give a fair amount of support to for those that, say, as witnesses, or how does that all work for you when tying in with what Eloisa said?
We do the opposite end of that, really. So our unit's split into witness care officers and then the victim support side. So the witness care officers are in charge of court warning and liaising with the CPS, making sure if special measures, so say you needed a video link or screens up in court if you're vulnerable, say, they deal with all of that side of things. And then we work really closely with them so we can organise things such as pre-trial visits for witnesses, go along, have a look and see what the court's like. That's quite an interesting part of the job because like we don't get that experience, we don't go to court, so we get to do that side of it, which is quite interesting. And then we will do a lot of court prep, work with the witness service that's actually within the courts. So yeah, but it's completely opposite end to what you do.
The witness services in the court are really, really great. A lot of them are volunteers. But yeah, they're really helpful when we've got people at court who are nervous and, you know, who are finding it difficult. They're very good at helping us support them.
When you say about being nervous, I mean, I did jury service a few months back.
Oh, okay.
And I was nervous.
Yeah.
You know, there's no outcome
you
for me.
feel that responsibility, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And how, because anybody is able to put what's happened to them or in a witness state, and from a prosecution point of view, I guess you're saying that's come across really well, but then they've got to perform when the defence takes over. So how do you prep people to deal with the defence saying we don't believe what we're hearing?
I mean, you can't really prep somebody in the sense of go over, you know, the sorts of questions they're going to be asked, but you can, you know, remind them that they just need to be honest. They need to listen carefully to the questions that are being asked by defence. Don't be afraid if they, you know, don't understand them to say that. and to just take their time, really. I think we're all guilty of, under pressure you ask the question thinking, and panicking, trying to answer, but actually just taking a moment to reflect on the question that they've been asked before then giving that answer, and just having faith and trusting in what they've said. They've obviously taken that massive step to give us a witness interview or witness statement, and we believe in them if we're calling them to court, so we try and instill that confidence in them as well.
I'm just wondering, Ellie, are you involved in encouraging people to go to court who are then saying, I just can't do this?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we're there to build that resilience, provide those coping strategies to feel able and confident to do it, because it takes such a huge toll. And I think that's really where our roles would interact, and we do a lot of joint work with officers in that way, because we're both supporting the same person from different angles. So it's really nice then to see that work come together. But yeah, we do a lot of how to cope with that anxiety, how to calm yourself and ground yourself in that moment so that you can concentrate on what's being said to you, because it is overwhelming, and
Yes.
I don't think anyone can prepare you. Despite how many times you go to visit the courts or have spoken to people about what's going to happen. But we do what we can, and I think everybody's experience is so different. Not everybody, some people feel so ready to go, and it gets to the day and they go, oh my God, and that's when we really work together. Everyone's there, we can go to the court with them on the day, be there in that waiting room. So,
And Aisha, how does this work with you? Because you'll see somebody who's been detained for whatever reason that could end up presumably in court because they've been detained. So how do you see it from the other end of the spectrum? Are you seeing people that are obviously nervous that they know they've been, let's say, properly arrested, or are nervous because they think they shouldn't be there at all and that someone's made a mistake?
Some of them, they kind of know that they're going to be going to court in the morning. You have some first-timers that are nervous. The best we can do is to reassure them. A lot of them think that this is automatically means they're going to prison. Doesn't mean you're going to prison. It means you're going to court. You still have your say. You still got your chance to say in front of the judge, give your version of the story. It's just try your best to reassure them that it's not necessary just because you're going to court, you're not going to prison, and just best to help them out as much as you can.
One thing that just crossed my mind while thinking about you in detention, and where, say, as you say in these TV shows, something happens and they press the alarm and the cavalry arrives and someone's hit somebody, and now we're talking about you've assaulted a police officer at the same time. You might be seeing one of your colleagues badly injured by the person that's just been brought in. How do you deal with, you've just injured my colleague who I really like, but now I've got to also look after you. How do you make that work in your head?
I just kind of experience, I guess. You just gotta separate the two. Yes, they've just assaulted your friend, just so they hurt your friend, but you just got to try and separate it. Really, you've got to, the police officers will do what they've got to do, and we'll look after you and just treat you as a person. There might be a reason that they've lashed out. They could be incredibly anxious. There could be mental health issues. Just try and think about that. There's not the majority. Most of the people don't just lash out for the sake of just lashing out.
Yes.
There's going to be a reason for it. So just try and remember that.
How does it work for Eloise and again Ellie when you've got a case where you have to put your own personal views aside? You're just gathering evidence, but you must be thinking at times, this person is 100% guilty, but it's going to court for others to decide whether they're guilty of the offence charged, not necessarily with what's happened. How can you explain where people say, well, the person is dead, but they've been found not guilty of something else? How do people work that one out?
My role as an investigator is to follow the evidence. We're not there to judge somebody or make our mind up, straight away. It's important to look at, all the evidence and build that picture. And if that evidence points to that person, not being involved, then we follow that evidence. We're impartial at the end of the day. It's our job to do the best for the victim and the victim's family and find out what happened to them. And if that leads us to the conclusion that the person that was originally arrested hasn't, done anything, then, that's good in our eyes, because we want to make sure that we obviously catch the right person. So definitely from my point of view, as an investigator, we have to follow the evidence and not, get personally involved or emotionally attached and think, oh gosh, that's horrific, that, and judge that person. It's literally just looking at all the evidence and making sure that we're, focused on that.
What about being looked after yourselves for your own mental health needs? Because you're taking in everything and you still have to have your own lives. How do you manage to deal with that, or is there the support that will look after you if it gets too much?
There is a lot of support available.
Yeah.
I think force-wide we have mental health first aiders, force diffusers. We have wellbeing Spocks that you can go and talk to.
Wellbeing?
So a point of contact.
Oh, I see, yes.
So who, and everybody is regularly made aware, I think, of who they can talk to and where their local mental health first aider is. There's always people you can talk to, team leaders as well. Especially in my experience, but I'm sure it applies to everyone, like team leaders, sergeants.
Yeah, especially
fantastic.
like in my department, it's obviously dealing with quite horrific crimes and very distressing evidence a lot of the time. And I think if we didn't work so well as a team and everybody, make sure that we look after each other, then that wouldn't, be possible. But everybody's great at making sure, if you're having a bit of a stressful or a bad day or, something's getting you down, that they're on you and they're saying, right, take a break, have 5 minutes, go for a walk, let's have a chat. And that's
your team's your team
what's
is
great.
They're like your family. They become your family, and you look after each other. If someone needs 10 minutes out, they have 10 minutes out, and you cover their duties. You just look after each other the best you can.
I think there's a real encouragement to just be open and just say, actually, I need a minute, or I need help with this, and that's okay. And that's what's great. I think even though all of our teams are really close-knit and really supportive, we're also supportive to each other outside of that, which is nice.
And while I've been listening to our experts here, I've managed to miss a question from David on YouTube, which I think we might have covered, David, but I'll mention it anyway. Can I ask, how do you manage your anger or disdain for the things or people you come up against? Do you think we've covered that already? Or was there anything you want to add to that? Because I was thinking, when I was saying about you obviously know someone's guilty and you've got to take a separation from that.
I just think you have to kind of park that and put it aside. And like I say, just follow the evidence to see whether, that person has done that, because just because someone's been arrested doesn't mean, they are guilty. There's enough suspicion, obviously, for them to be arrested. However, it's only the first part of the investigation. So I think having an open mind is important, and you can't let your personal views and, your feelings on the matters get you down, because otherwise it would make your job so much harder and it wouldn't be fair on the investigation. That's not our role.
Actually, for me, I have a work brain and I have a outside work brain, and I'm just like you get into, as people say, you get into the uniform, you're a different person, and I guess kind of in a way that's true. So you just might learn to put your things to one side.
And that's an interesting point, because when you say putting the uniform on, people forget there is a human inside that uniform.
They do.
But again, a uniform can set people off in funny ways.
Yeah, it can. Some people, except some people are anti-police. People have their own views, but you just got to deal with it the best you can. Like I said earlier, none of us are here to judge. It could be any one of us sat around this table could be behind a custody desk tomorrow. So, it's just, you just got to get on with it the best you can. Never judge people. You're not there to, it's just an accusation at the end of the day. You haven't been charged, nothing's going to happen. You just got to let them do what they've got to do.
And we never know what somebody's personal experience
No,
is, how they're going to react.
Going through.
How they react to stress or trauma. You're going to get such a mixed bag that you've just got to go on what you're being given.
Yeah, and I think just focus, any, passion that you have, or, like concern or kind of like, worry about what someone's done. Just focus that into your actual job of making sure that you do the best investigation you can, or you look after them as much as possible and support the victims.
So, David, I hope that answers your question. If they haven't had something answered and it's burning that you want arsenic of our panel this evening, then send a comment on YouTube or Facebook. We're Surrey Police Live, and we're here on our first of our series, weekly look behind what's happening here. So we will be here next week as well, as long as the technology will switch on when we want it to. So still the chance to send us questions here. My role here is as a police volunteer, so I might talk about that a little bit later on.
How did you get into that?
I've turned the tables on you already. So I was involved in local theatre, and a flyer came through and said, would you like to help Surrey Police in training of the recruits coming in for the 12-week training to be a police officer on the streets? And so I signed up for that, and that has led on to where I am now, looking at you rather than being cuffed for an offence or talking about something bad that happened where I was being a witness. So that's how I got involved as a volunteer, and it's all been very interesting, just like tonight is very interesting. I'm wondering where I can go with that, actually. So I'm going to ask all of you where you think your careers might be going from where you are now. Where's the next step? Let's go round to Eloise first.
That's a difficult question. I only did all my detective exams. So when you work in a major crime team, you do the same exams as a detective as an investigator. So I only did that in the past sort of couple of years. So I definitely think I'd like to continue and stay in major crime, because I really enjoy it. So something relating to major crime, definitely.
Ellie?
Oh, I don't know, because we work with so many teams externally from the police as well. I think we're building so many skills. It's hard to know. I mean, your job just sounds so interesting. I think because we don't get involved in the investigation side, which sometimes can be frustrating.
Must be frustrating, yeah, I was going to say that.
Because we do get, we build close relationships, we do get a lot of disclosures, which you just accept as part of the role, but it would be nice to be able to follow them up and help with that investigation more than we can do, which at the moment is just pass it on and hope that it helps. So, yeah, I think it would be really interesting to go into a more investigative role.
Interesting.
Maybe.
And Aisha?
I love my job. I'm quite happy where I am. I look forward to going to work every day. I've got a fantastic team. So for me, I'll be here. I did the same job for Met Police. I moved here, and I love my job. It's a fantastic job for anyone looking to get into policing.
Well, it's been great to meet all of you this evening, and thank you for your comments on Surrey Police Live. I hope it's been informative, and if you were thinking about joining the police, perhaps tonight has helped you decide to make that decision. Look on our website for all the information on careers that is available. Also remember, if you have any information for the police, you can do it digitally, also on 101. And as you would expect, if you were in an emergency situation, always go for 999. I'm Andy. Thanks to my guests, Eloise, Ellie and Aisha, and join us next week on Surrey Police Live.
Next week on Surrey Police Live, we will be chatting to officers and staff who work together to find missing people, from our response teams and dog unit to our communications team. Make sure to share any questions you might have for the team, and don't forget to tune in and get involved at 6 p.m. on Thursday the 3rd of March. See you then.